and you've actually become a libertarian. Do you want to maybe talk about that process that got you there? I was going to ask if you were like a neocon before, if you were a conservative, and then I saw that picture of you holding the Cheney
Oh
sign.
yeah.
So what's the story there? How do you become a libertarian?
Yeah, so I was pretty young in that picture you're talking about, but I was a neocon conservative in high school. And then when I registered to vote, I registered as a Republican. And then the first couple years, I was still pretty dyed in the wool neocon conservative, hardcore right winger. And it was actually let's see, like there were empirical influences and philosophical influences that started changing my mind. So the empirical one was actually mostly with the police, and then later on with just different forms of law enforcement, like park rangers, forest rangers, border patrol agents. Like I started garnering this real distaste for law enforcement that I didn't have in high school because I didn't do drugs or anything in high school. I wasn't a skateboarder like Scott Horton. So, I just never had, I'd never had any run-ins with the cops that made me hate them until I started working, like until I became a truck driver, and had to deal with them on that front. And then when I was traveling around the United States, when I took a couple of years off, I had a few run-ins with them. I never got arrested and I never got brutalized, but I was harassed sometimes. And it was just, I started really getting sick of them. And then philosophical influences, it was, believe it or not, it was actually Bill Maher was one of them. And I know he sucks on a lot of issues, but if you're a hardcore conservative, he is someone, especially like back in 2014, he's someone who can make you start questioning some of your conservative values and see how dumb they are. But it was mostly Rand Paul, who I started paying attention to in 2014 when he filibustered John Brennan's nomination. And then I also started listening to Kerry Wedler and Peter Schiff. And then I went back and listened to a bunch of Ron Paul's stuff from 2012 because I'd been introduced to those ideas. And just throughout 2014, 2015, 2016, I really shifted from Republican to much more libertarian. I'd say I was a moderate libertarian in 2016. I voted for Gary Johnson. And then in 2018, I left the Republican Party just because I was so sick of them because, they've been in charge for 2 years, and anything good about the Republicans, like cutting spending or gun rights or, anything that we feel like we should get out of them, we were not getting out of them. Like it was the opposite. We were headed in the wrong direction. We had more gun laws than Obama could have ever hoped to pass. And then we had like higher spending bills than the Democrats could have hoped to pass. So I was like, I'm done with the Republican Party. And I didn't actually, so then I was just independent. I didn't actually join the Libertarian Party until last year. And it was just because things are getting really, really bad. And they're the only party that has any principles. So you can be an independent and you can say like, oh, I think for myself and I don't want to align with any party or whatever, but there aren't enough people who think for themselves out there, and frankly, a lot of libertarians don't think for themselves, but at least they're thinking things that I agree with, even if they're not thinking for themselves. So I was like, okay, I can jump in with this group and, really pushed for ending wars, lowering spending, ending the drug war, ending the spying. And then after I joined around the time I joined was when all these lockdowns and corporate bailouts were starting. And I was like, oh my God, like they're the only ones being principled against any of this. So it was just how crazy the country got in the last couple of years was enough to finally get me to join the Libertarian Party, because I thought it was a joke. Like I wasn't. It's funny, like the civil war that's kind of going on right now between like the alt-right people and the communist. Like I never thought any of those dichotomies were real. It was more just that I didn't think they were serious. That they were a bunch of people concerned about traffic lights and driver's licenses and age of consent laws instead of focusing on the big picture issues. But now we're seeing a push to care about those big issues and kind of put the dumb stuff aside. So I'm actually really glad I joined now, and I've never felt better being with any other group of people.